Welcome to Meridian Massage Techniques. I'm going to talk you through 10 different techniques for you to practice. These are based on tweener techniques, but they've also been adapted by me for safe care of your hands and incorporating shiatsu. So the first technique that we're going to be using is very similar to twi-fa, which is pushing. So for this, we can push up the meridian pathway or the limb up in the direction, either in the directional flow of the meridian or in the counter direction. Either is fine. So you can do this with two hands or with one hand. So I'm showing you these without medium. When we do the full massage, we'll be incorporating medium when we're working. So that is the pushing technique. The second technique is a rolling technique. Traditionally, this was done with much more mobilization of the wrist. I want to do this more slowly and using the ulnar aspect of the hand and keeping the wrist straighter, but the rolling is coming from the rolling movement of the forearm. So you can use the forearm and the little finger side of the hand. So this again is warming up the tissues. Like the pushing technique, it's one of the techniques that we start the treatment with. So the third technique is going to be the thumb pressing or palm pressing technique, which is anvar. So using your thumb, you glide up or down a meridian using slow pressures. So if you're doing it on the inside of the leg, often using the fingers is easier to do, and you can use the whole palm. So now I'm palming down this meridian, so using this pressing technique. And often when we're using one hand working, we're stabilising the limb with the other hand. So you need to keep both hands on your client. We often call the hand that's moving the working hand and the still hand the mother hand, and that's a shiatsu term. Our next movement is similar to this, but it's a suppressing movement called ya-fa, and you can either use firm thumb pressures or again firm palm pressures. So if the area is really tight, you can use both thumbs on this as well. Then to release it, so stagnant areas, you do a suppressing technique. This will be something we use in combination with some of the other techniques that we're going to go through. Our fourth technique is going to be thumb oscillation, and this is based on a thumb meditation technique. Well, that's the translation from Yi Zi Chan Twi-fa. So this is where we use this either on acupressure points, and traditionally sometimes they used a lot more articulation of the limb. I generally find it's better to try and keep your thumb quite straight, but you can use oscillation. So you can do that in circles all the way down or with a rocking motion. But be careful, we can use a rocking motion, but be careful of the joints of your thumb when doing this. So then the next technique is going to be a rubbing technique. and for this we're using the whole of the palm. This works really nicely on the yin meridians. So it's a way of releasing any stagnation, but it's also quite tonifying and soothing. So you can also use it up the whole of the back of the leg and or up the meridians on the back of the leg. So you can do it with one hand or two hands. The next technique we are going to do is a kneading technique, rofar. So traditionally often kneading was done with the femoral eminence of the thumb. But we can also use the fingers and the thumb. So when kneading up the calf, we're using the pads of both the fingers. So down the side of the leg, we're tending to use this aspect of the thumb and palm. When coming up the back of the leg, we're using the fingers. You can also use the thumbs and knead down the meridians. The next technique, which is similar to Nafar, which is grasping. Now often we're going to use this on the back of the leg, going up from the heel, up the soleus and gastrocnemius, and we're going up the back of the leg. The next technique we're going to move up to the arm, because these show really nicely on the forearm. The next one is Chi Fa. So I'm going to demonstrate Chi Fa, which is a twisting and tweaking technique. This works really well on the forearm area. Traditionally, it's done quite brutally and is quite uncomfortable. So I'm doing this much more gently. You grasp and twist, grasp and twist, grasp and twist. Now this works really well on the forearm. This is mainly where I would use it. And it's really good if people have any of the sort of bi syndrome issues, which could be carpal tunnel, tennis elbow, and could link up to a frozen shoulder. So we're going to, this releases stagnation, blood stagnation, key stagnation, removes obstruction from channel, and any invasion of damp and wind. So you can kind of see how it releases the blood flow and you'll get a redness in the area, but it shouldn't be to the point where it's really uncomfortable for your client. It might feel quite tight if they have got an injury going on, so you'll need to just check with them, but they will feel the benefits afterwards. And the last of the techniques is a twisting Niamfar twist and hold technique on the fingers. Often it was used where people would come off like this, with between the middle finger and the forefinger. I like to work between the forefinger and the thumb. So using my index finger, my thumb, and I twist and hold all the way up. I find if I don't find it better than flicking off the fingers, because this is much more relaxing for the client. So I slow it down and I'm releasing all the ki in the meridians, but I'm also allowing the person to really relax. I'm now just going to show you a combination of a couple of those different techniques. We've got the suppressing and the tweaking technique combination, where you'll be similar to this, where I've used it on the lower limb as well, where you use your flat of your thumbs and you twist through. So that sort of combination of techniques again. releasing all the way through. This is triple heater meridian, but it releases any pathogens or release any tendons in the arms as well. And then another one is when we're doing this sort of holding technique, is actually using the circling technique again. So I use a circling technique around all the knuckles, and you'll see that again when we do the arm work.